Then we will go back to Washi, who is talking with Zuth. And Zuth says, well, that's a very emotional report, but I need information.
The frogs in that village are worshipping a snake demon with 5 heads, and it's the biggest thing I've ever seen. And you need to stay away from it. I can't deal with this.
Hmm. Um, he's
A
writing.
real
He's
snake.
writing the report like to the
Real
spider
snake.
CIA in his head, and it's something
Big-
like frog assets are unreliable and overly imaginative.
You see that tree there? It's double the size of it.
He kind of looks up the tree and back and nods and says, "That's very valuable information."
I know you don't believe me. Just don't go. Don't go. For your sake, please. It came from underground. They were feeding frogs to it, and it was growing and growing.
He actually he starts thinking a little bit now, and his Zut says, "That is an excellent report, and thank you very much for your service. And I believe that I can offer you now officially protection and a chance to describe your adventures further at a more comfortable location." And he gestures kind of back toward spider territory, and further assignments or further service, could be required of you, or we can say goodbye here. And he says, so this can be yours, or we can say goodbye here.
I'm not coming back to this place. Thank you for the offer.
Well, he says, maybe you don't understand. You don't have to go on missions here, but
No, I'm bound
the queen is
to.
the queen is a generous and enlightened leader.
I'm bound to my. I'll go back to my source. I'm bound to it. I can't help you. It was while it lasted. I'm like I'm not being coherent with my words, right? So I'm like while it lasted, sure, but I need to go back to my source.
Okay.
And the snake is so big. Like stay out of it, please.
Yes. Well, he says, don't worry, I'll be very careful. I won't go there alone. So, safe journeys, Washi.
Bye bye. I'm still like just
You kind of wander off in kind of a non-linear way, and
like still completely
right.
like not thinking where I'm going and just like
and Zuth, shakes his head in his many eyes, shakes his head and says, "This is going to be a tough report," and is going to head back to to his place. So that will complete our visit to the village of Wambaroom, which was tragic in many ways, and has led to hasty departures.
So, did I understand right that the right wing guy who ran off with the money, the Barbaroa, whatever? So he got
right?
Barbo, okay. So you broke his leg and left him?
Right. Yeah, he's right.
Oh, okay.
He's been left at the entrance to the village, more or less at the road. And I was thinking about this. As far as right wing is concerned, he was quite opportunistic about the whole thing, more than corrupt, certainly. So there we go. I would therefore say we have concluded our game. And there's plenty to talk about, particularly particularly the sense of sort of flailing and despair that may arise when one has few or no dice in your pool, because it changes the way you play. I noticed in that you start talking about everything negatively. Right? You start saying things like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And a lot, in fact. And so I was kind of wondering, I mean, many times I was sort of staring at you as you were going, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, so I guess I have to do this. And I was kind of going, that's weird. So, yeah.
I think I did a little bit last time as well.
It's not weird, though, right? Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Go.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the chances of failure, like with this system, the chances of failure, even if you have a lot of dice, it's still significant.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Yeah. And so when you have very few dice, then you're going to want to maximize the dice that you're going to get from the gift dice and traits. And so for the gift dice, you're giving them, my impression was that, like, you make an assessment if it was easier or more difficult.
It's pretty much ease difficulty thing in terms of just how much is opposing you.
Right. So to maximize the number of dice, you want to use a trait, your highest trait, and do the easiest thing.
Absolutely
and
correct.
Then you have at least like a 5 or dice, which maybe gives you 60% or something like that.
All that
so,
is
I mean,
true. All that is true, but I was talking about what was being attempted. And so
the fiction we were trying to create.
Right. Well, no, what you're attempting to do, and the goals might be something like, well, this is all sounding a little too critical of you guys. Okay, it's just that I've been editing the episodes and I've been watching, and really some of it was just almost mind blowing, actually. But if, for example, when you were last session, when Tiru is struggling his way through the crowd and is trying to find her up and trying to get out of there and everything, and more than once, this was one example, you would close off doing something that was perfectly reasonable to attempt with the very same role that you'd already announced, the trait and everything you'd already announced or might be about to announce. Which trait it was didn't really matter, narratively. There's lots of ways you could, get out of there, for example. So therefore, it's kind of like you were talking yourself out of things that were perfectly legitimate to do.
I think that a part of that wasn't tied to the lower number of dice, but something that I have felt was that I was constantly falling on the same traits. And that was bothering me a bit because it felt like I wasn't using everything to the fullest. And so I didn't want to get repetitive and say, okay, this guy is uninjured and he's going to be wild everywhere. But interestingly enough, tonight, I felt that it was, when I came into the session, I was much less concerned about this because I was thinking it's not that such a big problem. I mean,
I do find myself wondering why one would feel the need to sort of do equal play across all your traits as kind of a running wavefront. I mean, kind of depends on the situation, right? Maybe you do use the same trait.
I think it's an irrational thing I was doing. I can't really justify it.
Right.
I was like, okay, I had this idea. And the thing is, you said about the dice, having few dice. When you were talking to Claudio, I was thinking that if there was another more, there was more play, I think Tiru, at the middle of the road, he would have started working back and forth, and eventually would have returned to the town,
right,
and probably die to try to fighting with his water magic. because
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, again, you don't look forward. We have no idea.
yeah.
And hold that thought. I mean, if more play is hypothetically possible, and you're going to
Hmm.
go and confront Spo after all in some way, or the snake is not
It's not
possible.
so.
Well, we have established this. Yes, and so the fun part for me too is, um, well, what would be the fun part for me is that it is okay for everything to go to hell and you guys having to run away, and for the snake, to still be, rampant, and for poor Bushi to have expired tragically. All this is kind of fine by me. And so the idea of trying to win the scenario
Mm.
is not really relevant. And so, I mean, I like your characters, and it's didn't want Bushi to die, but it's that's the way it goes in these fantasy adventures. And he was the noblest of the three of you, and so
Yeah,
therefore his death, is very disheartening,
it
right?
makes
Yeah, it's
very
very
much
right.
sense.
So I see all this, and so it works for me as this kind of disastrous, fantasy story. The big payoff being, Washi and Baroa looking at the snake, kind of going, whoa, for
Yeah.
all the three of you, and Bushi too, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
three of you going,
So
right?
the thing that
So,
I got from it, and I think I really agree with this. Like when I get into a game of the pool now, I tend to like, please don't expect that your character is going to be like some sort of main character. I mean, they're all protagonists in a way, but Ned Stark can get killed at the end of the first book,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And that's your story. That's your role in the story, right? And
Right.
you maybe if we do more sessions, you can pick some other character,
Right.
but um, that this is something that I really enjoy because it really means that when I play, I don't know what's going to happen and what it's going to mean to me. So now, the meaning for me of the fact that I decided that now I'm going to run away. First of all, I want to comment on the thing you said because I did it a little bit, not as much as Lorenzo, but I did it a little bit in the last
There was a
thing when I
particular
was
moment last
deciding.
time which was huge, but go on.
Yeah, when I was deciding how to interact with the snake, right?
Hmm.
Because I didn't think possible to fight it, right? So I don't know how to interpret that. You were saying it's maybe the lack of dice. I think it was something about the description. It just I felt scared of the snake, right? So the for me it's like this is not a fightable thing,
Right.
and it's just the interpretation of the moment. Maybe it was fightable, but that's what
Actually,
maybe.
that's not quite what I was thinking of, because it actually makes sense. The Washi's reaction in that regard to me doesn't strike me as particularly irrational. And it's certainly true that taking the snake on by yourself would be one die. That's
Yeah.
straightforward. So it's not, in my opinion, irrational to be afraid of the snake, right? I mean, not without a big old handful of pool dice. So therefore, I'm not, that's actually not quite it. It
If
was
I can
it was
conclude, sorry, the comment. The thing that I got for me, like Washi now is broken because his goal that he like this is what I'm honorable for. I defend the source, right? And like I went here to figure that out, and not only I didn't do that, but I essentially deserted my mission.
this
So this is
belongs
big
right.
for the character. If the
This
character were to continue, this would be very significant.
15 words. You've got
Yeah,
15 words.
yeah. I'm gonna write
Right.
it.
No, and
I
I
thought
think
about
both of
that.
you
I'm gonna
should
write
write
it.
it. You should write it, the 15 words, and do some edits, right? That are relevant to past tense here and there and stuff like that. And so then you've got your story of your character so far. So I
Yeah.
really think that's a good idea. But the moment you're talking about didn't really surprise me. Not fighting the snake was perfectly sensible in a mechanical and, kind of fictional way. What interested me was when um, you said, and this is actually kind of a quote, well, I can't get out of here, and I understand that you don't want me to, or that I understand you're telling me I can't get out of here. When I had said
Oh,
absolutely nothing of the kind. It was, I was
and what was
talking,
the context
the
of this?
context was you wanted to know where the snake was going
Mm-hmm.
and were wondering whether the snake was kind of poking with its nose where you had been, and my answer was no, the snake is actually seeking exit out the way that you came in. So the snake was going out or was seeking exit the same way that you would be seeking exit. That's true.
So I'll tell you how I remember it because I
Mhm.
don't remember this, and then I'll look at the video and see what
Right.
and hear what I said. But my understanding of that moment was that the not that you want me or anything, but that the snake was going through the exit that I wanted to go through, and so it wasn't a good idea to do it while the snake was there, right? So that was
This
kind of
is
like my
yeah, but this is exactly what I'm talking about.
right.
You're
Yeah,
looking at the fiction and suddenly closing off all sorts of things that should be subject to a roll. In
yeah,
other words, it
yeah,
wouldn't be
yeah.
different from trying anything else.
Yeah, you could have given me one die, right? Yeah.
Well, that again, you're assuming a lot. It would have been a
You
hell
could
of
have
a lot
given me
easier to
three,
do.
for all
It
I
could
know,
have been
right?
a
Yeah.
hell of a lot easier to do that than it would be to fight the thing. If fighting the thing is one die, then doing practically anything else is at least two, right? And probably three in many cases. So you see what I mean? And nobody's saying that it could get there before you could. Nobody said a
Yeah.
word about that. I was just saying where it was
Yeah.
pointed. That's it.
Yeah.
So in other words, there's a strange tendency to see a lot less than is actually there to attempt.
You know
Um,
what it is in my opinion? Because so if the kind of looking for danger, it is not proper for this game, right? It's something that is proper for some other game that I played that where it would be proper to be careful about danger and like kind of like well in this case it it's more about what I want to do and not like and you are in charge of telling me or stopping me or putting a correct scope on the
right, the
roll.
way
It's
it's
not
not
my
going to,
job.
unless you're doing something ridiculous like trying to fly
Yeah,
off
yeah,
or
unless it's
something.
like something
Right,
absolutely
right. But
insane.
but
Yeah.
if you're talking about something that's plausibly possible, then certainly, um, at the very worst, you're getting a roll with the die. At the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
It's you're right. I mean, it is very much more about nobody saying I can't. You know, if I try to wrestle the gorilla, okay, that's going to be pretty tough. But if I, try to run off, it's kind of like, well, it's as if you're faced with the choice of what are you going to do about this gorilla, and you say, well, he'll catch me if I run off, and I'll be
Yeah.
going, I don't remember, I don't remember a word about that. How did that get in there?